Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ibrahim Sagbalaji and I'm the founder of Bote Technologies. In this tutorial video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a responsive footer using HTML and CSS. If you are new to this channel, do not forget to hit the subscribe button for more awesome content like this. So right here, I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code and I'm going to click on the create new file, and I'm going to give this a title of index.html. Alright, now our workspace is ready. I'm going to hold the shift and 1 to bring out the exclamation mark, and I'm going to press enter to auto generate the code. So now inside my body tag, I'm going to create a nested div, and the first div is going to have a class of footer, and inside the div I'm going to have another div, and this is going to be for the column 1, and inside the column 1 I'm going to have the h3 header, and I'm going to call this useful links. Right here I'm going to have some anchor tags, and the first one is going to be the home, and inside between the anchor tag I'm going to have the home text. I'm going to create another anchor tag, and this anchor tag is going to be called about, and here I'm going to have the about text. I'm going to have another anchor tag, and this is going to be for the contact. I'm going to create another anchor tag, and this anchor tag is going to be for the portfolio. Okay, so now we've created two divs, one nested inside another. So right here I'm going to create another div, and this div is going to be called the newsletter. Oops, sorry. I'm going to have the column 2, and inside here I'm going to have the h3 as well. So for the h3 we are going to have newsletter, and under it I'm going to have a form, and this form is not going to perform any action. So inside this form I'm going to nest another tag, and the tag I'm going to nest inside is going to be the input tag. So I'm going to call the input tag, and it's of the text email, it's of the type email, and I'm going to have a placeholder for it, and the placeholder is going to have a value of please enter your email address, and I'm going to set a validation to it. So I'm going to use an attribute called required. Okay, so now after this I'm going to have a button, and the button is going to be of the type submit, and in between here I'm going to have the subscribe now. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to create the last div, and this last div is going to be the one that will hold the address. So I'm going to have div, and I'm going to create a class of column 3, and here I'm going to have the h3, and the h3 is going to have the address, and I'm going to have some paragraphs, and this paragraph is going to be for the value of the address. So I'm going to have G6 Guarimpa Estate, then I'm going to have 3rd Avenue FCT Nigeria. Okay, so right here let me save this, and let me launch it with the live server to see what we've done. So this is how everything actually looks like. So what we are going to do now is we are going to style it with our CSS, and this CSS allows us to structure it, and also it allows us to beautify the HTML tags we've created. So I'm going to go back to my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to create a new file, and the name of the file is going to be styles.css. I'm going to press enter, then I'll come back to my HTML index.html. Inside the head tag I'm going to have a tag called link, and this link will be the one I will use to link my external style sheet. So I've linked the external style sheet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open my styles.css and I'm going to set a root value to it, and this root value is going to have a margin. So I want all the tags in the body to have a margin of a 0, and I'm going to also set a padding of a 0 as well. So I'm going to set the box sizing to border box. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to my index.html and I'm going to pick my footer class in the styles.css. So I'm gonna have dot footer, then I'm going to set a margin, and that's going to be for the margin top. The margin top is going to be 150 pixels, 150 pixels, and I'm going to give it a width of 100%. 100%, and I'm going to give it a padding of 100 pixels from top and bottom. I'm going to give it 15% from left and right. So next I'm going to set the background color to a gray color, so I'm going to use the hash 333. So next I'm going to set the text color. I'm going to set the text color to white, so I'm going to use hash EF. So let me save it and see what we've actually done. So these are our web page is looking. So I'm going to go back to my Visual Studio Code and I'm going to set the display to flex, because I want each and every one of them to be displayed next to each other. So let me save it and go back to my web browser. So now all of them are sitting close to each other. So the next thing is I'm going to set a padding between each of these columns. So I'm going to go back to my Visual Studio Code and I'm going to pick the footer. I'm going to pick the div, and here I'm going to set the text align. I'm going to use the CSS property text align, and I'm going to align the text to the center. So right here I'm going to go inside my index.html and I'm going to pick a column 2. So I'll come to the styles.css dot column 2. And I'm going to set the flex grow to 2. I'm going to come back into my, so now we are having equal spacing between the first column, the second column, and the third column. So right here I'm going to go into my Visual Studio Code and I'm going to pick each of this h3, I'm going to pick the h3 for the first div and the h3 for the last div as well. So I'm going to come back into my Visual Studio Code and I'll go to the styles.css. So right here I'm going to have the footer, and I'm going to have the div, and I'm going to target the h3. So for the h3 I'm going to set some property to it, and the first property I'm going to be setting to it is going to be the font weight. I'm going to set the font weight to 300, and right here I'm going to have a margin bottom of 30 pixels, and I'm going to use a letter spacing of 1 pixels. So let me save it and come back here. So now the h3 has a padding, has a margin bottom from the anchor tags at 30 pixels. So right now I'm going to go into my Visual Studio Code and I will go to my index.html. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the column 1. I want to remove the text decoration from this. I want to change the text color, and also I want them to sit under each other. So I will go to my Visual Studio Code, I'll go to my styles.css, and I'm going to pick the column 1. going to target the anchor tags. So for the anchor tags, I'm going to set the display to block, and I'm going to set a text decoration property to none. So also I'm going to set the color to white. FFF. Okay. So I'm going to set a margin bottom also. I'm going to set a margin bottom of 5 pixels. So let me come back. So now we have our text sitting under each other. So the next we want to do is we want to customize the newsletter. We want the button to sit right under the input field, and we want to style the input field as well. So I'll come back to my Visual Studio Code. I'll go to the index.html, and right here I'm going to use the line break BR tag, and I'm going to save this so that we can see the changes we've made. So now the button is sitting right under the input field. So now I'm going to pick the column 2, and I'm going to pick the form. I'm going to pick the input, and as well I'm going to style the button. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go to the styles.css, and I'm going to pick the form, and I'm going to target the input. So from the input, I'm going to use a width of 400 pixels, and I'm going to set a height of 40 pixels to it. I'm going to set a border radius of 15 pixels. So let me save that and go back here. Okay, I'm gonna increase the border radius to 20 pixels. 20 pixels. Okay, let me save it and go back to my browser. So now I have this and this text. I want the text to align to the center. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go to the Visual Studio Code, and I'll use the CSS property called the text align, and I'm going to align it to the center. Now I'm going to set a margin to the bottom, and I'm going to use a margin bottom of 30 pixels as well, so we can have a margin between our text input and our button. So okay, so this works fine. So the next thing we want to do is we want to remove the outline from the input field. So right here I'm going to go here, and I'll set the outline to none, and I'll also set the border to none. Okay, so this looks a little bit good. The next is I'm gonna style this button. So I'm going to go into my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to target the button. So right here I'm going to select the button. Oops. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the form. I'm going to select the button, and for the button I'm going to set the background color to transparent. Background color. Okay, so I'm going to set the background to transparent. All right, so I'm going to set a border, and the border is going to be 2 pixels thick. That's 2 pixels. I'm going to set it to solid, and I'm going to use a color white. So I'm going to set the color to FFF. So let me save this and go to my browser and see how it actually looks. So this looks very bad. So I'm going to go to my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to set the text color to white. So I'm going to set the text color to white. So I'm going to use the X code, which is FFF. Now I'm going to set a border radius. The border radius is going to be of 30 pixels, and I'm going to set a padding so that the text can have a padding around it. So I'm going to set a padding top and bottom of 10 pixels and 30 pixels left and right. So next I'm going to set the font size to 14 pixels, and I'm going to set the cursor to pointer so that when they click on it, it can actually show that it's clickable. So now we are having this. So let me delete this, guys. Wow, so this looks a little bit good. So the next we want to do is we want to start with the address. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to break this third avenue. I'm going to break it to the new line. So what I'm going to do is I'll go to my Visual Studio Code, and right here I'm going to use the line break, the BR, and this looks a little bit good. So next is I'm gonna try to insert some social media icons around here. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go to boxicon.com. This is where I'll pick my icons, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on usage. So when I click on usage, it's going to take me to a page where I can actually install the box icon, or where I can link the box icon to my website. So the first is to copy this script code. So I'm going to go over here and copy it. I'm going to right click here and go to copy. I'll go to the Visual Studio Code, and inside the head tag I'm going to paste this right here. So next I'm going to look for click on the HTML. So next I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to right click, go to copy. I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to paste this here. Okay, so now I've inserted the script, and I've also inserted a link to the box icon web page. So right here under the paragraph, I'm gonna create a social media class, a social icon class, social icons. Okay, so here I'm going to go back to my box sizing, the box icon. I'm going to look for some icons. So let me come back here. Let me go back. So the icons I'm going to be inserting is the Facebook, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, and the Behance. So right here I'm going to type the Facebook. So I'm going to be inserting this Facebook circle. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on HTML, and this has already copied the code. Or let me just come here and click on it. So it has copied it. So I'm going to go to my Visual Studio Code and paste this here. So next I'm going to search for Instagram. Let me close this. So we have two results. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on the front, and I'm going to click this. So I'll come back here and paste this here. All right, so next I'm going to look for LinkedIn. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this, the font, and I'm going to click on this. I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code, and I'm gonna paste this here. So next I'm going to look for Behance, and so these are some of the social media where I have an account. So I'm going to click on Behance, I'm going to click on the font, and I'm going to click here. I'm going to click here as well. All right, so let me save it and see what we've already inserted. So let me go back to my web page. So now I have this Facebook social media icon, I have the Instagram icon, I have the LinkedIn, and I have the Behance. So next I'm going to make this, I'm going to give this some padding, and as well I'm going to style it to become a little bit beautiful. So what I have to do is I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code, then I'll go to my style.css. So I'm gonna go here, I'm going to click on the social icons, social icons, and I'm going to give it a margin on the top. I'm going to give it a margin top of 30 pixels. So let me save this and see the result. Okay, so I'm gonna come here, dot social icons, and I'm going to target the icons. So I'm going to give this a font size of 12 pixels, and I'm going to set a margin between the icons. I'm going to give this a margin of 10 pixels. I'm going to set the cursor to pointer so it looks clickable, or it becomes clickable. Oops. So let me save this. Sorry, I think this is a little bit smaller, so I'm going to come here and I'm going to increase it to 22 pixels. I'm going to click on save, and this has become a little big. So that will be the end of the tutorial video. If you really enjoyed this video, do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you in the next tutorial video. Thank you.